Okay, it's live time. Good evening, everybody. Mobile Giza here with you. Friday Night Tech Talk, as every Friday. And for anyone who missed last week, Ted will join when he can. There goes my phone doing what it always does. Okay. Ted will join when he can from now on. I guess some weeks he'll be able to, and others he won't. But he's gotten busy with his career at work, and his photography business has picked up, so that's good for him. And last week he was away, but I'm guessing he's home now, but depends on what time he has to join us. Mike, I believe, is coming home from vacation tomorrow, so my guess is Mike won't be on. And of course, as always, I've invited Will and Oscar and Mark. So we'll see if anyone has time to come on. But meanwhile, all you get is me, the old guy, and hopefully I'll give you some interesting stories, and maybe we'll all learn a little bit. I know I always learn from you guys. So I hope everyone's had a good week and is ready for this big Labor Day weekend. And let's see who was in here. Renz was in here first at 7:10 p.m. my time. And knowing Renz, he's probably getting ready to go to work. And then Nigel was in here. Miss E was in here. And that's all I've seen so far. So those of you up in New York and New Jersey, I hope everything is okay. I hope you haven't had to deal with too much of the storm issues, and as far as I know, everybody that I know up in that New York, New Jersey area is okay. I did check with Mike yesterday. I did check with Will yesterday, and they and their families are all okay. So that's a very good thing. Thank God for that. And we had one day of constant rain from the storm before it moved up there. And then the last few days we've had sunny every day, mid to high 80s, which means the weather is starting to change, and I'm about to lose my wonderful summer, and we'll have to deal with it. I know many of you are looking forward to fall, and our temperatures are just starting to cool down. The last 2 mornings we've been in the 60s in the morning. We hadn't seen that for quite a while. So hope the weather where you are is good. And I'm going to move on and start with the stories. And you guys comment as much as you want as usual. So I'm going to pull up the first story. I'm going to share the screen because this one is pertinent to this particular weekend. So sharing the screen, go a little bit bigger if I can. Okay. So this one is on zdnet.com, and FBI CISA warned of potential cyber attacks over holiday weekends. They cited the Mother's Day weekend attack on Colonial Pipeline, the Memorial Day weekend attack on major meat processor JBS, as well as the July 4th Kaseya attack. I don't remember that one. Let me know in the comments if you do. So let's see if we can get rid of some of these commercials with the reader view. There we go. Okay, this was written by Jonathan Gregg. Today? Since today. I pulled it up on Wednesday. Okay. CISA and the FBI released an advisory warning of potential cyber attacks that may occur over the coming Labor Day weekend, noting that in recent years, hackers have launched dozens of devastating attacks on long weekends. They urged organizations to take steps to secure their systems, reduce their exposure, and potentially engage in preemptive threat hunting on their networks to search for signs of threat actors. CISA says it does not have a specific threat intelligence indicating attacks are imminent for the coming Labor Day weekend, but explained that threat actors know IT teams are limited on holiday weekends and listed many attacks on holidays this year. Eric Goldstein, Executive Assistant Director for Cybersecurity at CISA, said ransomware continues to be a national security threat, but noted that the challenges presented by potential attacks are not insurmountable. With our FBI partners, we continue to collaborate daily to ensure we provide timely, useful, and actionable advisories that help industry and government partners of all sizes adopt defensible network strategies and strengthen their resilience, Goldstein said. All organizations must continue to be vigilant against this ongoing threat. He urged organizations not to pay ransoms in the event of a ransomware attack and said CISA or local FBI or field officers should be contacted before any decisions are made. CISA noted that there is generally an increase in high impactful ransomware attacks that occur on holidays and weekends, noting the devastating Garcia attack that took place on July 4th. They cited the Mother's Day weekend attack in May by the DarkSide ransomware group on the Colonial Pipeline, and the Memorial Day weekend attack on major meat processor JBS by the Sodinokibi Revel ransomware group. Revel then hit Kaseya on July 4th, continuing the holiday attack trend. The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, which provides the public with a trustworthy source for reporting information on cyber incidents, receives 791,790 complaints about all types of internet crime, a record number, I would guess it would be, from the American public in 2020, with reported losses exceeding $4.1 billion. This represents a 69% increase in total complaints from 2019. It's a big jump. The number of ransomware incidents also continues to rise, with 2,474 incidents reported in 2020, representing a 20% increase in the number of incidents and a 225% increase in ransom demands. From January to July 31st, 2021, the IC3 has received 2,084 ransomware complaints with over 16.8 million in losses, a 62% increase in reporting and a 20% increase in reported losses compared to the same time frame in 2020. So in other words, it seems to keep getting worse and worse, or there are more and more of these attacks. The FBI added that over the last month, the most frequently reported attacks involve ransomware groups like Conti, PYSA, Lockbit, Ransom EX Defray 777, Zeppelin, and Crisis Dharma Phobos. According to the notice, more ransomware groups are also coupling the encryption of IT assets with the secondary extortion of organizations with stolen, sensitive, or proprietary data. CISA added that ransomware groups are increasingly deleting backups and adding other tactics to make attacks more devastating. The more common initial, that makes sense, because if you delete the backups before they're aware of the attack, then they can't even recover once you hit it. So pretty smart criminals, I'd say. The most common initial access vectors involve phishing and brute forcing unsecured remote desktop protocol endpoints, according to CISA. Ransomware gangs are also using dropper malware, exploiting vulnerabilities and taking advantage of stolen credentials. At times, ransomware actors spend weeks inside a system before launching an attack, typically on weekends or holidays. So CISA urged IT leaders to search their systems for potential points of access proactively. Suspicious traffic patterns and strange access locations may help tip off IT teams of the potential for an attack, CISA noted. IT leaders like Psychotic Centrophy, Vice President Bill O'Neill, says malicious actors often know that long weekends mean there will be a delayed response or an unprepared skeleton crew that simply doesn't have the resources to monitor for simultaneously and deter threats fast enough. What threats will be monitored, trigger automatic alerts, and enforce certain lockdowns, but often those still require human interaction for mitigation and additional security controls, O'Neill said. That would make sense. Somebody has to come up with a in-person response. And because most organizations would prefer to have their data released immediately rather than wait out the duration of a holiday weekend and incur continued reputational damage, they're also more likely to negotiate with attackers and pay out the requested ransom to minimize long-term risks associated with these attacks. That makes sense also. Lookout Senior Manager Hank Schlesch, I think it's Schlesch, added that hackers know people may be traveling and not able to access their work computer or mobile device in order to help stop an attack once they receive an alert of suspicious activity. Attackers have already become much more advanced in how they gain entry to an organization's infrastructure, even when the teams are fully staffed up and working, Schlesch told ZDNet. Jake Williams, CTO at BreachQuest, explained that most ransomware attacks seen today could be easily discovered before encryption by following the guidance from CISA. I would hope so. This is especially true for reviewing logs. Yeah, that makes sense. You'd probably find a lot if you went through the logs in detail. Threat actors could certainly perform lateral movement while staying out of logs. Still, with the plethora of potential victims with horrible cyber hygiene, there's currently no need to do so, Williams said, adding that extremely basic levels of cybersecurity hygiene and monitoring are enough to achieve early detection of today's ransomware adversaries. Tripwire Vice President Tim Erland put it succinctly: attackers don't take the weekends off, and neither should your cybersecurity. So it makes perfect sense. So just wanted to make everybody aware, especially anybody that's still having some kind of interaction with their company, to make sure somebody's on the lookout for this stuff. And I think the mention of checking the logs is probably a very good idea, especially if these guys are coming in weeks ahead of time to spy around the system and check things out. So I would think you'd probably find something in logs. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever gone into logs of programs and that type of thing, but it can be a lot of information and it takes a lot of detailed inspection to go through them, but I would think it's worth it. So just wanted to make you guys aware that they think maybe this weekend could be one of the threat weekends. So that's story number one. Okay. And if anybody comes in, Ted or any of the other guys, I will certainly let you guys know as soon as I see them. But so far, still just me. Okay, so moving on. I thought this was an interesting story, and I kind of like it. Let me share it. Okay. And just like last week, with me being by myself, it may be a much shorter show. Last week, I think we ended at 9 o'clock rather than 10. But of course, the more people we have, the more likely the show will go longer. So this one is on Gizmodo.com. Google and Apple's App Store payment dominance is about to be challenged for the first time by Brianna Provenzano. So let me see if I can get rid of some of these commercials with ReaderView, and there we go. A new South Korean law is set to challenge Apple and Google's dominance over App Store payments for the first time, putting the hefty 30% cut the companies collect through their systems in jeopardy. This browser, okay, don't mind me, because I have ReaderView on, that's where we're getting that message. So, according to the Wall Street Journal, the legislation, expected to be signed imminently by South Korean President Moon Jae-in, whose party has long endorsed the legislation, would amend South Korea's Telecommunications Business Act to prevent Apple and Google from requiring app developers to use their proprietary in-app purchasing systems, and would also
This came back from a search.
Okay, Google is talking to me, even though I had this on Do Not Disturb. Oh, by the way, that's coming from my new Pixel 5a. Let's see, change this picture. Okay, that's coming from my new Pixel 5a. You can see that kind of green color. Looks kind of blue in this light. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a little while. So let's go back to our story. According to the Wall Street Journal, if the companies fail to comply, they could be compelled to forfeit up to 3% of their South Korea revenue by the Korea Communications Commission, the country's media regulator. The law represents a major change to Apple and Google, both of which have long mandated that apps eschew outside payment mechanisms in favor of allowing transactions to flow only through their systems. The bill's imminent passage is the culmination of a long-running fight in Seoul, during which both Google and Apple fought the bill as it made it through South Korea's legislature, while simultaneously urging trade officials in Washington to push back on the proposed law. Yeah, I guess they would. In a statement to The Verge, Google defended its service fees. It's the same old argument they always use, arguing that the surcharge helps keep Android free and gives developers the tools and global platform to access billions of consumers around the world. Just as it costs developers money to build an app, it costs us money to build and maintain an operating system and app store, the Google spokesperson said. We'll reflect on how to comply with this law while maintaining a model that supports a high-quality operating system and app store, and we will share more in the coming weeks. That first statement about the helps keep Android free, they could copy and paste that. They put that in every story that comes out against their app stores. Representatives from Google and Apple did not immediately respond to Gizmodo's request for comment on the pending legislation. News of the bill's passage comes as other countries, including the United States, have continued to scrutinize Apple and Google's gatekeeper practices. In March, Apple agreed to comply with a Russian law that prompts users to pre-install some apps when they're first using one of the company's devices. And Australia also recently announced that it would be considering new laws that would examine the ways digital payment services are handled by large companies. In the US, lawmakers recently filed an antitrust lawsuit targeting Google's App Store as an illegal monopoly, and also introduced a bipartisan tranche of legislation to the US Senate that would determine which rules could reasonably be imposed on developers in Google and Apple's app stores. So it looks like their domination with their app stores and their insistence on getting their 30%. This may be a first step on some of that coming to an end. So I think that's a good thing. Let's see, Munchie. Hey, Munchie, glad to have you in here, brother. Munchie says their commission needs to come down to 15. Else the senators will divide and rule them. I totally agree, Munchie. I agree with it needs to come down, and I think the politicians are about to jump all over them. So agree with you 100%. Glad you're here. Okay. Going on to our third story. Remember, you folks comment as much as you want, as Munchie just did, and Munchie always has insightful comments. But then almost all of you do. Okay. Windows 11. Okay, I'm going to share the screen. Let's see if I can make it a little bigger. Let's see. Did I already do that? Okay, this is on The Verge. Microsoft will release Windows 11 on October 5th. So we're a month and 2 days away. Windows 11 will be offered as a free upgrade. This is by Tom Warren. And let's see if I can put on reader view. And there we go. Microsoft is announcing that Windows 11 will be released on October 5th. The new operating system will be available as a free upgrade for eligible Windows 10 PCs or on new hardware that ships with Windows 11 preloaded. The free upgrade to Windows 11 will start rolling out on October 5th, but like many Windows upgrades in the past, it will be available in phases, to your surprise. New eligible devices will be offered the upgrade first, and then Windows 11 will become available for more in-market devices in the weeks and months following October 5th. I'm hoping that mine will come right away because my PC is only about a month and 2 months old, I guess. So it's pretty new. Following the tremendous learnings from Windows 10, we want to make sure we're providing you with the best possible experience, explains Aaron Woodman, General Manager of Windows Marketing at Microsoft. We expect all eligible devices to be offered the free upgrade to Windows 11 by mid-2022. So you might have a long wait here, folks. My guess would be the older your computer, the longer it's going to take. That's just a guess on my part. Well, based on everything I've read in the last few weeks. On existing Windows 10 PCs, Windows Update will let people know when the upgrade is available for Windows 11. You can also check to see if your device is eligible for the Windows 11 upgrade through Windows Update or Microsoft's dedicated PC Health Check app, currently in preview. While Windows 11 will be launching on October 5th, and here it comes, not all of the announced features will be available. Microsoft is bringing Android apps to Windows 11 in partnership with Amazon and Intel, but this feature won't be available on October 5th. And of course, this was the big deal they made about it when they first announced it, but of course it won't be available on launch day. A preview of Android apps on Windows 11 will be available for Windows Insiders in the coming months, so even insiders aren't getting it immediately, suggesting that it likely won't launch to all Windows 11 users until 2022. Microsoft clarified its minimum system requirements for Windows 11 last week, but also revealed a workaround for those who don't meet them. And if you've read some articles from the past, there's going to be a lot of PCs that don't meet the minimum system requirements. You can install Windows 11 on any hardware using an ISO method as long as the PC has a 64-bit 1 gigahertz processor with 2 or more cores, 4 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigabytes of storage, and a TPM 1.2 chip. But if you use the workaround, your PC will be in an unsupported state. That's wonderful. So they're going to give you a workaround and then not support the workaround. This means an unsupported Windows 11 PC might not get access to Windows Update and even security patches. Wow. If your PC isn't fully compatible with Windows 11, Microsoft is still supporting Windows 10 until October 14, 2025. It's not clear how many major updates Microsoft will release for Windows 10 over the next 4 years, though. 21H2 update is arriving for Windows 10 users later this year that includes GPU compute support in the Windows subsystem for Linux, Windows Hello improvements, and WPA H2E Wi-Fi security support. So don't expect unless you have a, I guess, fairly new computer, I would expect you're not going to get that on October 5th. We'll see if I do, and I'll let you guys know if I do. Let's see what he is saying. If your Ryzen is a Series 5 or 7, 4700 or about there, it should qualify, as long as it can support TPM2. Yes, that's true, and mine is a Ryzen 7 4700, so that's why I'm thinking I should get it as soon as possible. She's saying, sorry, typos. Yeah, I never do that. I totally understand. Okay. Let's see. Okay, that's all the comments we've got so far. Nobody else has come in yet, so I hope you guys are at least getting something out of these stories, and I hope I'm giving you something that'll give you some value and or some knowledge, or both. Okay, now we're going to move on to about this one. Now, here's a good look at my Pixel 5a, and they were right about, now see, in looking at it in the camera, it looks kind of blue. Now looking at it myself right here, because I have such bright lights, it does have that green. But as soon as you move it to a darker area, then it starts to look kind of black. So it does have the different shading. Even the camera makes it look different. So this story is about Pixel 5a. So let me go share the screen. Okay, make it bigger if I can. See if I can make it bigger. I think that made it bigger for you guys. Let's see. Yeah, Munchies from the last story, Munchies saying ISOIT and dual boot Ubuntu, George. Okay, cool. Thanks, Munchie. See, Munchie, that's why Mike calls Munchie the professor. He knows the ins and outs. Okay. And Missy is agreeing. Okay. Okay, on to the Pixel 5. This one is on 9 to 5 Google. Google is, of course, I'm sure you've all heard lots and lots and lots of stories about the video overheating issues. And I haven't even tried a video with mine yet.
This came back from a search.
And Google keeps thinking I'm talking to it. Okay, so I will let you know. It seems like some people are having overheating issues based on some videos I've seen, and some people aren't having any. Some people are having it with 4K. Some people are not having it with 1080p. So it seems to vary. But anyway, let me stop my screen and start over again because it seems like. Okay. Better if I put the right story up. Okay. 9 to 5 Google. Google is looking into Pixel 5a video overheating issues and touchscreen problems. This is the first I heard about the touchscreen problems. And this is by Ben Schoon. Boy, I remember Ben Schoon when he was a teenager. I guess he's grown up because that was 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. So let's see if I can put the reader on. Okay. The Pixel 5a with 5G launched just this month with stellar battery life. Everybody raves about that battery life. And a solid price point, but it does seem to have one flaw. As many have pointed out, heat seems to cause trouble for the Pixel 5a, but Google is looking into overheating problems on the device. It has been reported by quite a few people in recent weeks that the Pixel 5a has an overheating problem. Specifically, the issue seems to take place when recording 4K video. In our own testing, Kyle Bradshaw found that the Pixel 5a would stop recording after about 4 minutes of recording 4K video, with heat as the cause. In Android Central's case, the problem also kicked in after shooting some simple photos and 1080p clips, with the overheating message kicking in after 30 minutes. So yeah, and if your phone generally has heat issues, and I can tell you from my experience, the longer you have it on, especially if you're shooting video, the more likely it's going to overheat. But it's my experience, most phones just kind of send you a message and shut the camera down. Maybe that's what this does too. I haven't tried it yet, but I'll be trying it over the weekend. The publication, Android Central again, also noticed some touchscreen issues with the bottom half of the display, something that Android Police's Ryan Hager also had problems with. Google has confirmed that the company is investigating both issues. With the touchscreen problems, the issue apparently goes away when using the phone in safe mode. I don't want to use my phone in safe mode, implying that it's likely a software issue that Google can patch up. That's good. The company says it's looking into it. As for the overheating problems on Pixel 5a, Google is investigating the problem with the thought it may be tied to the camera app. Oh, you think? Okay, that's all right. I couldn't resist. So at least they're looking into it, and maybe they can fix some of it with a software update. Will they be able to fix the overheating issue with a software update? From what I've seen, some people think yes, some people think no. So I don't know. And Munchie said the last story was his favorite time of footage. Well, yeah, because you're a big-time tech nerd and an extremely knowledgeable guy, Munchie. That makes sense. So anyway, folks, I'll be getting out over the weekend with the Pixel 5a. And if you saw a little while before I went live, I posted a picture on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook showing that I had it, and I shot the picture with the Pixel 4a. So I thought that was cool. So let's move on. Okay, now we're back to Apple's ongoing story about them scanning our phones. And this one I specifically put in because even Eric Snowden has weighed in, and I'm a big admirer of Eric Snowden. Don't know what you guys think of him. But when he tends to speak about tech, I tend to listen. So let's see. Okay. This is on PCMag.com. Edward Snowden slams Apple's CSAM scanning as a disaster in the making. I couldn't agree more. Apple's controversial plan to scan practically every iPhone for CSAM has yet another opponent. So let's see if I can put the reading view on. There we go. U.S. National Security Agency whistleblower Edward Snowden has joined the chorus of privacy advocates calling for Apple to abandon its plan to scan practically every iPhone for child sexual abuse material, CSAM, over concerns the system will expand to other content in the future. Oh, and just a little while before I went live, I found another related story, which I'll be putting up next. I can't think of any other company that has so proudly and so publicly distributed spyware to its own devices. That I found surprising. I guess Eric Snowden would know. And I can't think of a threat more dangerous to a product's security than the mischief of its own maker, Snowden writes in his newsletter known as Continuing Ed. There is no fundamental technological limit to how far the precedent Apple is establishing can be pushed, meaning the only restraint is Apple's all too flexible company policy, something governments understand all too well. Yes, they do. Snowden is best known for the 2013 revelation of a number of mass surveillance programs conducted by the NSA and its counterparts in the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance. He then sought asylum in Hong Kong and then Russia, where he became a permanent resident in 2020. Well, yeah, he didn't have a choice. He's referring here to Apple's plan to compare known CSAM to images stored on an iPhone connected to its iCloud photo service. Rather than scanning the photo when it reaches the cloud, Apple is using on-device processing, and this is what we all object to compare a hash of the image to an index of CSAM from a national database, then sending a report to its employees when it finds a potential match. And I know we've gone over some of this, but I'm thinking it's probably a good idea to read at least most of the story. Once a certain number of reports is reached, the company will manually compare the relevant image to the CSAM database. If there's a match, a report will be sent to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and the user's iCloud account will be deactivated. Scanning the photos on device is supposed to offer a compromise between privacy and the safety of children. I don't think that compromise is working. Apple's plan has been roundly criticized for its technical implementation. Yeah, can you imagine how the government is going to jump all over Apple trying to get access as soon as they found that it went live? Don't mind me, let me see, Munchie is saying something. After the reveal about Pegasus, Apple still wanted to implement this CSAM thing. Was absolutely mind-blowing. I agree. Glad people called Apple out, and finally, Tim Apple got some common sense. Yeah, and that's going to be in the follow-up story. But the broader concern is that Apple won't be able to limit this on-device processing to CSAM. Two researchers who published what they described As the only peer-reviewed publication on how to build a system like Apple's, Jonathan Mayer and Anue Kulshrestha, okay, said they believe such a tool would be too dangerous to implement even if it were introduced with the best intent. I totally agree. Our system could easily be easily repurposed for surveillance and censorship, and that's the whole point. The design wasn't restricted to a specific category of content. A service could simply swap in any content matching database, and the person using that service would be none the wiser. Right? They switched it. We would have no idea. Snowden echoes these concerns. Apple's proposal to make their phones inform on and betray their owners, notice that betray their owners, and I agree, marks the dawn of a dark future, one to be written in the blood of the political opposition of 100 countries that will exploit this system to the hilt. Yep. See, the day after this system goes live, it will no longer matter whether or not Apple ever enables end-to-end encryption, because our iPhones will be reporting their contents before our keys are even used. Exactly. As soon as they see a hit, they're going to report it. And encryption will not have kicked in yet. I would say there should be a law, but I fear it would only make things worse. I agree. He adds, to put it bluntly, this is not an innovation, but a tragedy, a disaster in the making. Couldn't agree more. All right, let me stop the screen. Okay, I already had Munchie's comment. Thanks, Munchie, for the insightful comments, as always. And Devon said, okay, John Parsons said all this research. Yeah, I just put this story in because Eric Snowden weighed in, and a lot of us really have an awful lot of respect for his opinion when it comes to tech. At least I do. So now I found another story. I didn't know about this until today. So this is a follow-up story. I'll just share my screen. I think this is a good thing. Obviously, when we put enough pressure on, it can work. So this was on Wired, but I'm sure it's all over. Apple backs down on its controversial photo scanning plans. A sustained backlash against a new system to look for child sexual abuse materials on user devices has led the company to hit pause, and that's, I think, a very good thing. Okay, let's put on reader view. Okay. Let's see. In August, Apple detailed several new features intended to stop the dissemination of child sexual abuse materials. The backlash from cryptographers to privacy advocates to Edward Snowden himself was near instantaneous, largely tied to Apple's decision not only to scan iCloud photos for CSAM, but to also check for matches on your iPhone or iPad. After weeks of sustained outcry, Apple is standing down, at least for now, which is great. And Mullen, it's not that I was ignoring John Prosser or anything. This is I think the fourth week in a row that I brought up this story. And I just wanted to get this follow-up, especially the fact that Apple is backing down a little bit. And Serrano's in here. Hey, Serrano, glad to have you here, brother. Okay. Last month, this is from Apple. Last month, we announced plans for features intended to help protect children from predators who use communication tools to recruit and exploit them and limit the spread of child sexual abuse material, the company said in a statement Friday. Based on feedback from customers, advocacy groups, researchers, and others, we have decided to take additional time over the coming months to collect input and make improvements before releasing these critically important child safety features. And of course, the key question is going to be, are they going to go forward at all? Because at the point where they start inspecting our phones and our iPads, that's going to be a problem. I don't care what else they do. That's just my opinion. Apple didn't give any more guidance on what form these improvements might take. Yeah, I'd say just don't do it. Or how that input process might work. But privacy advocates and security researchers are cautiously optimistic about the pause. Yeah, I'd say the only reason to be optimistic is if they don't implement it at all. I think this is a small move by Apple, says Alex Stamos, former chief security officer at Facebook and co-founder of cybersecurity consulting firm Krebs Stamos Group. There is an incredibly complicated set of trade-offs involved in this problem, and it was highly unlikely that Apple was going to figure out an optimal solution without listening to a wide variety of equities. I don't think they'll ever figure out an optimal solution. CSAM scanners work by generating cryptographic hashes of known abusive images, a sort of digital signature, and then combing through huge quantities of data for matches. Lots of companies already do some form of this, including Apple for iCloud Mail. But in its plans to extend that scanning to iCloud Photos, the company proposed to take the additional step of checking those hashes on your device as well, if you have an iCloud account. The introduction of that ability to compare images on your phone against a set of known CSAM hashes provided by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children immediately raised concerns that the tool could someday be put to other use. Yeah, like the very next day. Apple would have deployed to everyone's phone a CSAM scanning feature that governments could and would subvert into a surveillance tool to make Apple search people's phones for other material as well. This is Rihanna Pfefferkorn, researcher scholar at Stanford Internet Observatory. Totally agree. Apple has resisted multiple United States government requests to build a tool that would allow law enforcement to unlock and decrypt iOS devices in the past, and we've all give them kudos for that. But the company has also made concessions to countries like China, where customer data lives on state-owned servers. At a time when legislators around the world have ramped up efforts to undermine encryption more broadly, the introduction of the CSAM tool felt especially fraught. Yes, and that statement about governments around the world making efforts to undermine encryption more broadly. Yes, I was watching a conversation with Snowden last week, and he was talking about how he used to do that exact same thing and discuss how you get around encryption. According to him, right now, they can't get around encryption, and that's what's frustrating all the governments, including ours. They clearly feel this is politically challenging, which I think shows how untenable their Apple will always refuse government pressure position is, says Johns Hopkins University cryptographer Matthew Green. If they feel they must scan, they should scan unencrypted files on their servers, which is the standard practice for other companies like Facebook, which regularly scan for not only CSAM, but also terroristic and other disallowed content types. Green also suggested that Apple should make iCloud storage end-to-end encrypted. I agree, so that it can't view those images even if it wanted to. I couldn't agree more. The controversy around Apple's plans was technical as well. Hashing algorithms can generate false positives, and everybody's been saying that too. Mistakenly identifying two images as matches even when they're not, called collisions, these errors are especially concerning in the context of CSAM. Not long after Apple's announcement, researchers began finding collisions on the iOS neural hash algorithm Apple intended to use. So they're already finding collisions, which means, so now they scan your phone, and they get an error, although they think it's CSAM. Well, now the FBI is on your case because they made a mistake. The whole idea is just bad. Apple said at the time that the version of neural hash that was available to study was not exactly the same as the one that would be used in the scheme, and that the scheme was accurate. Highly doubt that. Collisions may also not have a material impact in practice, says Paul Walsh, founder and CEO of the security firm Metacert, given that Apple's system requires 30 matching hashes before sounding any alarms, after which human reviewers would be able to tell what's CSAM and what's a false positive. Maybe. It's unclear at this point what specific changes Apple could make to satisfy its critics. Green and Pfefferkorn both suggest that the company could limit its scanning to shared iCloud albums rather than involving its customers' devices. I guess that's a possibility. And Stamos says the neural hash issues reinforce the importance of incorporating the research community more fully from the start. I agree, especially from untested technology. Others remain steadfast that the company should make its pause permanent. I'm with that all the way. Apple's plan to conduct on-device scanning of photos and messages is the most dangerous proposal from any tech company in modern history, says Evan Greer, Deputy Director of Digital Rights nonprofit Fight for the Future. It's encouraging that the backlash has forced Apple to delay this reckless and dangerous surveillance plan, but the reality is that there is no safe way to do what they are proposing. They need to abandon this plan entirely. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, and he said it's is the most dangerous proposal from any tech company in mind. I totally agree, because if you open this wormhole, it's just going to just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and nobody's going to stop it, especially once the governments get involved. Not our government, any government. So let's see. Okay, Munchie saying a lot of Apple employees were against CSAM and did raise their voice in internal forums. Well, I'm glad they did, and I'm glad, like this man says, that they're listening to us. The Roland said a good topic to bring up. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it very much. Yeah, it's just a very important topic, and it's important to every single one of us. Munchie, since governments can get around the encryption, that's why that Pegasus tool sells for billions of dollars, and to give governments only. Yeah, and that's the point that I've seen Eric Snowden make a number of times. There are companies, like I guess the main company is a company in Israel that sells these systems that will break the encryption for you, and they've been selling to governments, to America, to Russia, to all different governments, and they sell it for millions of dollars. So this whole idea is just bad all the way around. The one says, if Apple does this, they would be gone in a few years. I didn't think of that, but I guess that's possible. NSO Group. I don't know what NSO Group is. You need to explain that to me, Munchie. I'm sure I probably should know what it is, but I don't. So anyway, I want to make sure I brought up that story, since Apple is backing down for now. And I agree, they need to get off this entirely, because this is an extremely dangerous idea. Okay. And much as the Israel company makes Pegasus. Yes, that's the company. Okay, that's NSO. That's the name of the. Okay, that's the name of the NSO. Yeah, that's right. I did hear him say that. So you stirred no man's memory, Munchie. Does CSAM infringe on our rights? No, I don't think CSAM infringes on our rights. They're trying to protect children, and I'm all for that. But once you give anybody the power to start inspecting our devices in a real-time basis, that's going to open up. That's going to open up to governments all over the world, and that's a seriously bad idea, which is why I agree they need to just totally give up this idea entirely. So hopefully we'll all be protected from this kind of invasion. And like I said, with the collisions, with them making mistakes, people are going to get arrested that are totally innocent because some algorithm made a mistake. So hopefully they won't be implementing it at all. So I just thought it was a very important story to bring up, and I guess I'll keep bringing it up as long as it stays in the news. Okay, now let's go on to lighter things. So my next one, I just threw this in. I won't be getting one. Share the screen. Okay, this was on Tech Radar. Let me see if I can share my screen again, because it's flashing like crazy here. Let's see if I can get rid of that. Try it again. Share screen. share. Okay, we're good. Okay. Okay. So I am getting the probably, I guess, on the 14th. That's what Samsung is telling me now. I'm getting the new Samsung Galaxy 4 watch, not the 4 Classic. But since Fossil just announced this week, I thought I should at least make some mention of it. So this was on Tech Radar. Fossil Gen 6 smartwatch unveiled with fast charging, more sensors, and Wear OS 3. And that was the main thing. Everybody was worried, is anybody else going to give us Wear OS 3 on a watch? So I think that's a good thing. Okay. Okay, Munchie, thanks for coming by, and thanks as always for your insightful comments. Really appreciate it, sir. Let's see. Miss E said she saw that Fossil watch. Yeah, not going for the. Yeah, I love my my Galaxy Watch 3, and when I get my Galaxy Watch 4, I'm guessing I'm going to love that too. Now, what I do nowadays, since I carry both, well, right now my Pixel and my iPhone every day. One day I wear my Galaxy Watch 3, and one day you can't see it. And one day I wear my Apple Watch SE. So I find them both. I'm going to make a short video comparing the two, at least as far as my bicycle riding goes and exercise. I'll probably do that in the next week. So on to the Fossil. See if I can put that reader view on. Okay. So, but I'm excited that I'm excited, and I think others will be too, that it has Wear OS 3. This is by James Rogerson. Fossil is one of the few brands that's regularly been releasing Wear OS smartwatches. Yeah, I think they've probably been the most consistent over the years. So it's fitting that the company's newly announced wearable, the Fossil Gen 6, will seemingly be one of the first to run Wear OS 3. Pre-orders for the Fossil Gen 6 opened today, August 30th, so that was 4 days ago. And while it won't run Wear OS 3 out of the box, it will be eligible for an update to this software in 2022. Let's hope sooner than later. So you can expect this thing to stay current for a while. Beyond that, highlights of the Fossil Gen 6 include a new SP02 sensor, allowing it to provide estimated blood oxygen measurements, and battery that supposedly charges 2 times faster than the leading smartwatches, meaning you can reach 80% power in just over 30 minutes. Well, that's a very good thing. That's paired with smart battery modes and a Snapdragon 4100. Yeah, I think this is one of the first ones to get the Snapdragon 4100, which we haven't seen in many wearables yet, and which should not only provide a power boost, but also low battery consumption. So as well as charging fast, the Fossil Gen 6 should survive a while between charges, with over 24 hours of life said to be realistic. The Fossil Gen 6 also has a heart rate monitor that should be more accurate than the one on the Fossil Gen 5. That's good. GPS and the ability to track all sorts of metrics, including sleep, burnt calories, and cardio fitness level. In terms of the core specs, the Fossil Gen 6 has a 1.28-inch AMOLED screen with a pixel density of 326 pixels per inch. That's also there's also 8 gigabytes of storage and 1 gigabyte of RAM. On the design side, you have a choice of either 42 millimeter or 44 millimeter stainless steel case with the same screen size on both. There's a rotating home button to aid in navigating the interface, and the Fossil Gen 6 is water resistant to 3 ATM, so you can take it swimming. It also has a built-in speaker, and you can get it in 7 different styles for the 4 millimeter size and 3 for the 42 millimeter one. Let me take the reader off just for a second to see if there are more pictures of that. That's not what I wanted. Where's the reader? Okay, reader view. Okay. Just want to see if there are any more pictures down there of that. Okay, yeah. See, there's some of the colors and pictures. Certainly looks nice. So Just wanted to get the picture. Let's put the reader view back on so I can keep reading. Okay. No, the picture was there all along. Okay. It costs between $299 and $319. And while we only have US pricing right now, we'd expect the Fossil Gen 6 will be widely available. It's a big year for Wear OS. Over the last few years, there's been the sense that Wear OS might have been a bit abandoned. Yeah, I thought it was totally abandoned, both by smartwatch makers and by Google itself. But suddenly it's back in the limelight, and for all the right reasons. Hot on the heels of Google unveiling a complete overhaul of the platform dubbed Wear OS 3, we then saw Samsung launch the Galaxy Watch 4 and Galaxy Watch 4 Classic, two wearables that run the new operating system, marking a big shift for a company that in recent years has put Tizen on its smartwatches. Those watches are available now, and the Fossil Gen 6 will soon be joining them. On paper, this looks like a compelling smartwatch too, especially once it gets the Wear OS 3 upgrade. As part of the announcement, Fossil also revealed that it will soon be launching Michael Kors Gen 6 smartwatches, so there's more on the way too. Yeah, they may say they're launching Michael Kors Gen 6 smartwatches. That doesn't tell us whether it's going to be running Wear OS 3, but hopefully it will. It's impossible to say whether this momentum will last long, but for now, Wear OS seems to be enjoying a revival. Yeah, which I think is a good thing, because it did seem like they had abandoned it completely. So just wanted to let you folks know that there are other Wear OS 3 watches available other than just the Samsung watches. So let's see. Ren says he'll be sticking with his Huawei watch. He always says wear one on each wrist, yeah, because I switch every day. I thought about that. I think when I make the video, I'm probably going to put both watches on the same wrist just to kind of show them. But we'll see how that goes. So what is Ren saying? I want those 007 watches that shoot out lasers or a tent. Yeah. He says, I'm teasing you. I kind of knew that. Yeah, lasers or a taser. Yeah, that probably wouldn't be a good idea. Unless you're a lot calmer than I am, Renz. Anyway, good comment. Okay, now and now we're going to go on to, this was just a story that Mahai M on Sam Mobile wrote, and I just thought it was an interesting story to put up because he doesn't like the fact that the Flip 3 does not have the under display camera. So let's take a quick look at that. Share the screen. Okay, this is on Sam Mobile. And he's saying, I am not buying Samsung's excuses for not giving the Galaxy Z Flip 3 UDC under display camera. And by the way, I ordered my Flip 3 while the event was happening. But I found out the other day, because the gray is one of the two colors you can get only on Samsung's website, I ordered the gray. Well, turns out that means they have to customize it. So I haven't gotten mine yet, and up until yesterday, it hadn't even shipped yet. But I talked to the rep about it, came close to canceling my order, but I didn't. So I'll just wait until my Z Flip 3 shows up. And my last email said I'll be getting my Watch 4 on the 14th. So it's testing my patience. And at my age, I guess I'm supposed to have some patience. So I guess we'll make sure I do. Let's see, what does the moment say? Rumored Apple-linked firm buys Arizona vehicle testing site Mike Peterson's avatar. Mike Peterson, okay. So vehicles, okay. One of these days, Apple's going to make a self-driving car, I guess. All right, so back to the story. So he's not buying the excuses that they don't have under display camera. Let me put on reader view. Okay. Although both the Galaxy Z Fold 3 and Galaxy Z Flip use similar display technologies, it's only the larger model that enjoys the benefits of the new UDC technology. Samsung gave its reasons why UDC technology was reserved for the Galaxy Z Fold 3, but to be honest, I'm just not buying into this narrative. Samsung explained that UDC got left out for the Galaxy Z Flip because the clamshell foldable phone is a lot more selfie orientated than the Galaxy Z Fold 3. Whereas, let me make this a little bigger. Whereas the latter device is supposed to enable immersive experiences. Because UDC has lower quality than a regular selfie sensor, Samsung decided to give the Z Flip 3 the better alternative. So that means we need to be looking at videos comparing the cameras of both. That's good to know. It seems like a sensible decision at first glance, except it sort of falls apart on closer examination. First of all, the quality of Samsung's first under-display camera isn't that bad. It's actually quite decent for a selfie camera as seen recently in our sample, and it's not that much worse than the regular 10 megapixel selfie sensor Samsung's using for many of its phones. And I've seen a number of videos talking about the camera on the bigger one, and they seem to be fairly impressed with it, at least more so than they thought they would be. Secondly, the Galaxy Z Flip 3 already has a cover display, and anyone aiming for higher selfie quality can and will use the dual camera setup together with the cover screen for much better results. Thirdly, the Galaxy Z Flip 3 and any other smartphone for that matter could very much benefit from an uninterrupted display and a more immersive experience when watching videos, browsing the web, video calling, and so on. This isn't something that only tablet users want, Samsung. Smartphone users have been waiting for the downfall of display notches and cutouts for years. Well, that's true. It's these types of excuses that tend to come back and bite Samsung. The last thing I don't like about Samsung's recent explanation is that it once again highlights the company's inability to sometimes view the bigger picture. Or perhaps it shows that the company doesn't trust its customer base with the real version of the truth, whichever it might be. I'll go out on a limb here and say that the main reason why UDC was left out for the Galaxy Z Flip 3 might have to do with low supply, high manufacturing costs, and or the fact that the UDC is a new and relatively untested technology. Or maybe Samsung wanted to keep the spotlight more on the larger foldable model. And that could be because it's pretty obvious that the Z Flip is by far the bigger hit of the two. So they're trying to give you more reason to buy the big one, which kind of makes sense, I guess. Regardless, once supply and manufacturing shortcomings are dealt with, Samsung will likely want to bring UDC to more phones, including the Galaxy Z Flip 4 or future models. Oh, and by the way, as far as supply and manufacturing shortcomings, today, GMC, announced that they're shutting down certain factories in the US and Canada because of the chip shortage. So they're shutting down some of the manufacturing of their cars, and Ford announced yesterday that it was shutting down 6 of their factories temporarily because they can't get chips for the cars. So this supply and manufacturing shortcomings is probably going to be a while yet. Just thought I'd mention that. And Samsung will then have some explaining to do because the Z Flip form factor remains relatively unchanged by the time it gets UDC technology. The company's recent excuses will fly right out the window, once they do show it. If these types of short-sighted statements that can come back and bite the company, it's these types of short-sighted statements that can come back and bite the company, similar to how Samsung mocked Apple for removing the charger from retail boxes, only for the Korean tech giant to do the same later. I thought it'd be the exact same thing when you said that. At the end of the day, I'm hoping that Samsung will change its mind by the time the Galaxy Z Flip 4 enters the final design stages, and it won't hold on to what I believe is an absurd notion that UDC is unfit for the clamshell form factor. So I haven't gotten mine yet, so I can't tell you what the camera's like compared to the big one anyway, which I'm also not getting. So just thought it was an interesting article, and he thinks that they're just making excuses and, cost cutting or whatever. So just an interesting story, I thought. So that is the last story I had. Let's see what else is going on. Rents. Xiaomi going to start making those electric cars from China, I think starting next year or 2023. Interesting. Yeah, next year would be really quick, in my opinion. And one more comment from Renz. A Z Fold 3 plus Pixel software, Pixel Fold. Yeah, yeah. Now that Samsung and Google are working together, who knows? Maybe that's in the cards for the future. I would think that when Google does get around to making a foldable phone, it's going to have to be Samsung that guides them. So they're going to have some kind of partnership, I would think. I like it when I have my green tea because you see right through the bottle. I like that. Just me entertaining myself. So, yeah, I knew Mike wouldn't be here because he's traveling tomorrow to go back home. And, oh, I probably should also show you guys glowing rectangles, which I neglected to do last week. So I don't want Ted to get on my case. So let me share my screen with glowing rectangles. Okay. So I'm sure all you folks know, but just in case anybody doesn't know, glowing rectangles is a place where people can share videos and or stories, blogs, whatever, and post them directly to glowing rectangles, and that's at Reddit, reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. So if you see a video or a story that you think people should know about, especially if it's from somebody who's smaller, you can actually post it here, and people can vote on what they think is the what they think of it. They can upvote it, downvote it, stuff like that. And of course, at the top, there's a welcome to glowing rectangles, and here's what we're about. So you can vote on that. And then when you're in here, let's see, where's my, so over here is where you can upvote or downvote. Here's one, Mr. Who's the Boss and MKBHD. I'll upvote that once, even though I haven't watched it. And so anytime you want to bring some attention to somebody, just copy and paste it into glowing rectangles, and they'll certainly get more exposure. And here's technically T's Galaxy Z Flip 3. iPhone needs these 4 things. T's been putting out some great stuff, especially since he got the Z Flip 3, and he absolutely loves that thing. I'm assuming I will too, but I haven't had a flip phone as of yet. So, and Gadget Bite, she gets in here quite a bit. She does very high quality stuff. She's over in India. And so just wanted to bring glowing rectangles to you guys' attention, anybody who didn't know about it. And let's see, stop this screen. And Renz, you must not be working today because you're making a lot of comments, which I'm very happy. Let's see, Mullen says the Z Flip 4 needs a full front screen and a battery over 5,000 mAh. Yeah, I agree with you about the battery. From what I've seen in videos and pictures, I kind of like the front screen when it's fully opened up. At least I think I will. We'll see when I get it in my hands. And Renz is just being Renz. Renz, the last time I played sax for you, which I did, I had to practice for about, 2 weeks, and since I hadn't blown the sax in 4 years, my lip was sore for like 3 days afterwards. So I probably am not going to be doing that anytime soon. Besides which, I can sing a heck of a lot better than I play sax. Always have. Just letting you know. So that's my whole show for tonight, folks. And I'm glad all the comments you guys put in. You guys always put in very insightful and knowledgeable comments. And I'm glad. I'm always happy to interact with you guys. And yeah, I went a few minutes over last week, which is not bad for me being by myself. And thank you all for coming in. Renz, Nigel, Miss E, Munchie. Munchie always has great comments. Nolan, you contributed a lot tonight. I very much appreciate it. So I hope those of us in America have a good Labor Day weekend. And the rest of you, I hope you all have a very blessed and wonderful weekend. And I will see you back here next Friday, and be watching out on my channel and on my posts for some, at least some beginning post on the Pixel 5a. So, Renz, thank you as always so very much. Renz is very faithful about that. Really appreciate it, Renz. All right, see you all next week, and everybody have a blessed and wonderful weekend.